This is a battery, and this is a $400 e-bike that I got off of Amazon. You put the battery on the bike, and you get this. But the question is, for how long? And that's what I want to find out today, is how much range can we get out of this cheap $400 e-bike that I got off of Amazon. Now, they claim about 22 to 50 miles, but we're gonna see how it actually does in the real world. There's actually a lot of things that affect battery life, and there's actually a lot of ways that manufacturers will kind of stretch their numbers out, and we'll talk more about that later when we're out on the trail. But for now, let's go ahead, get the GoPro on, and take this thing for a ride, and pick it up with one arm, and get out of here. So guys, we're at about the 10-mile mark here now, and our battery is going between half and 75% right now. And I've just been riding throttle only. But anyways, let's talk about what some manufacturers do to kind of get their numbers up on their e-bikes and how the actual range rating can be a little bit deceptive. Now look, on this e-bike, it says about 50 miles of range, which may be true if you're on pedal assist 1 and you're pedaling a lot. But if you're on full throttle like this, you could probably expect about 20 miles out of this bike. That's typically what I get out of a battery on this bike, and I have 2 batteries, so in theory I could go about 40 miles just on throttle only. That's without pedaling at all. So a lot of times manufacturers will give you the absolute highest number to make themselves look better on the listing or on their website. So they might say, hey, this bike can go 80 miles, and there might be a little star next to it that says, when on pedal assist 1 or something like that. A lot of times you'll see a little bit more reputable people giving you a range of numbers. So let's say instead of just giving you one number, they'll give you a number of like 50 to 100. And that's a lot better in my opinion, because at least on the low end you'll know, hey, on the low end I'll be getting 50, on the high end I'll be getting 100 if I'm on like pedal assist 1 and I'm pedaling a lot. But you know, even then the manufacturer's ratings can be different because batteries are affected by a lot of things, such as temperature outside and obviously the weight of the rider and the amount of cargo and stuff that you're carrying with you. And if you're towing anything and stuff like that. So those numbers are only an estimate. You gotta take them with a grain of salt. But on a lot of e-bikes, typically you can get 20, 30 miles. And on this one, like I said, I can get about 20 miles on just full throttle. So another thing about e-bikes is your top speed is determined by how much battery you actually have left. So e-bike manufacturers might rate their bike at 32 miles an hour, but that's gonna be 32 with a completely full battery. It might drop to 28 or 30 when you have a battery that's not 100%. So that's something else to keep in mind. Like the top speed of this bike, when it's charged, is about 22 miles an hour. But right now you can see I'm going about 19. That's because I'm on half battery. Now, it does stay pretty consistently at 19, 20 miles an hour after the batteries died a little bit, but just keep that in mind too, that the top speed number that you see might actually be top speed when the battery's full. So in my experience with this specific bike, I'm really happy with the mileage this thing gets. I think 20 is great. 20 is a really far bike ride. Especially if you pedal too, like you could probably get 30, 40 miles out of this thing. I could genuinely see you getting 30, 40 miles out of this thing. And, that's a big distance. You could easily commute on this bike. And that's one thing that I really like about it, is it does have good range. And I did mention that I have a second battery for this bike, and these batteries are relatively lightweight, so I can just carry an extra one, and then I literally double my range. Now right now I have the stock one that came with the bike just because I want to give you guys an accurate test on how much range you can actually get out of the original battery. But I find that both batteries perform about the same. They're both generic cells, but I don't know if they sell any LG or Samsung cell batteries with this. But I get pretty good performance out of just the generic cells and everything. And as I've mentioned before, an extra battery for this is about 200 bucks. Which again is like half the price of the bike, so it's up to you if it's worth it or not, but I think that it's worth it if you buy this bike to get a second battery. It's just gonna extend your range so much. It's always cool seeing other e-bikes out on the trail. They are definitely becoming more popular, and that's why I wanted to make videos like this, to kind of educate people more and show people how much fun e-bikes are, man. You can get out and you can enjoy the beautiful trails and paths like this. Like, this is such a beautiful path, man. It actually runs along a river, and it runs along the Fox River here in Illinois. It's a beautiful path, and it runs through a bunch of small cities, and it's really cool. you can get out, you can get an e-bike like this and go 20, 30, 40 miles and be able to enjoy the weather and enjoy the bike paths and the nature and the scenery. That's why I love these e-bikes. But anyways, that's just a side note, a little side tangent. I don't know if you can hear that, train's coming behind me. So right now we're at about the 15-mile mark and we've still got half a battery. Yeah, man, like I was saying about e-bikes earlier, man, this is, just get to come out and enjoy these nice views like this. It's awesome, it's great. We're gonna head up this incline here and see how it does. Full throttle, no pedaling. Handle it like a champ. Alright guys, so we're at the 20-mile mark now and we're still at half battery. That's what it's indicating. Now I don't really trust that. I think it's going to go down to 1 pretty soon and then from there it's going to start flashing, but we're getting pretty good mileage on this ride. Yeah, we just went down to 1 bar now, so I would say we'll probably get about 22 on this battery before I switch it out to the other one and then head back home. Yeah, it's feeling a lot more sluggish now. And I think I'm actually gonna tap out right here and I'm gonna swap out the batteries. Let's go ahead and do that. I just keep this extra battery in the backpack here with me. Swap the new one in. Oh, like that. Turn it back on. Now we're fresh. All right, throw the battery back in here. So could have got about 22 miles out of that battery. If I would have went another half hour, there's no doubt that I could have got another half hour out of that battery, or another half mile, I mean. No doubt, I definitely could have. Pretty good range though, guys. I'm happy with that. I've gone far on this bike. I still have a ways back too, so tapped out about 21.5 miles. Now let's head back home, and then once we're getting back home, I'll give you guys an update on how everything's going. All right guys, so we are finishing up our ride here, and it says that we've done about 30 miles. Like you just saw, I switched out my battery around 21 or 22. On throttle only, I got about 22 miles of range. Probably could have got a little bit more, but I cut it off at about 21 and a half. And guys, look, I've put dozens of cycles on this battery for sure. So, I mean, it's still getting 22 miles on a battery that's a little bit worn. Now, guys, I have made other videos on this bike. I have a 1,000 plus mile update on this bike. I'll link to that. Go ahead and watch that. And if you're interested in this bike, I have it linked down below in the description and in a comment. So guys, I hope you found this video useful. Battery life is great on this bike. Go out and get one if you're on the fence. I can't recommend this enough. All right guys, see you in the next video. Peace.